The person with the automatic license shouldn't be claiming they can drive any car, and moreover, they are not in the position to be teaching you to drive a manual. Do what I say and you get the result. Which is completely wrong. And then the next question emerges, should I then be watching these influencers altogether? I'm Dmitry Sokolov, and today we get clarity on the gap between what fitness influencers preach and what actually produced their results. There are a lot of influencers who cover muscle growth exercise and specifically resistance training who are clearly utilizing pharmacological support, or who have relied on it to reach where they are now. Many of them are producing really good content with high quality and with genuine knowledge of the topic. Yet, I cannot help but see the obvious dissonance here. Because no matter how knowledgeable and capable these people are, they end up creating an illusion in their audience, unintended or deliberate, doesn't matter, that whatever gains they've got can be achieved simply by following their advice. Their advice is correct, and that's the problem. Because it's not what they're preaching is wrong in principle, it's the fact that all of the correct science behind it represents only a fraction of the whole picture puzzle. And that is the most misleading, the most deflating, and ultimately the most progress-sabotaging part of the whole arrangement for you and me. Because when we look at someone, and you know these people, they have substantial following across platforms, when we look at them and think, that person is saying X, Y, Z about programming, periodization, about training to failure, about eating and supplementation to grow muscle, yes, all of that may be theoretically sound, but it is not the sole determinant of their end result. It's just one variable among several. And the one they're omitting is actually the one that changes almost everything. And here's the important part. Unless that gets disclaimed every time, unless it's featured in every single post or video they make, it simply gets lost because we, the viewers, listeners, and readers, naturally and subconsciously drop this factual layer, focusing only on what matters to us. How do I build such a great physique, and preferably fast? And the unpleasant aspect of needing to plug in some hefty pharmacology into this equation gets dropped by our brain instantly, because this is not something the vast majority of us are ready or going to do. Now, to be fair, some of those influencers do disclose. A minority of pharma-enhanced gurus are transparent and consistent about it, so quoting one of them, all love and respect. But the majority either deny, evade, or simply let the ambiguity serve their brand. And for that majority, the picture they offer to us is, do what I say and you get the result. Which is completely wrong. If we do what they say, we will get some result, because their advice as such may be perfectly good, but the harm is not in the advice. The harm is in the implicit promise of the outcome based solely on such advice. And unless you're clear for yourself about the fact that they're on pharmacology, and that pharmacology is how they got their exact results, you're maxing out the risks to end up with injury, frustration, and the pursuit of outcomes you cannot reach. Injury, because programming designed around pharmacologically supported recovery will eventually break a natural body that cannot repair at the same rate. And frustration, because the goalposts were never where you were told they were. So, what is the way out of this loop, and where am I taking this whole conversation? I'm not certain how it works in every other country, but in the UK we have the automatic driving license and we have the full one. And someone who holds the automatic license cannot claim they can drive any car. They're limited to automatics. And with someone who has reached their results with pharmacological support, we need to see this whole picture. The person with the automatic license shouldn't be claiming they can drive any car, and moreover, they are not in the position to be teaching you to drive a manual, because they have reached their results using a specific combination of training, circumstances, and resources. And unless you replicate this exact combination, you shouldn't be expecting their results. And yes, genetics factor into all this as well, and some people are extraordinarily genetically gifted, so there is enormous variability before pharmacology even enters the conversation. But introducing additional layers of variability and then preaching as if they don't exist, in my reading, that's both unfair and harmful. I want to take this one step further to get clarity about the ownership of the results, because that's usually the counter-argument. I'm pretty sure you've seen those comments along the lines of, you can't just take steroids and get the results without doing the work. Absolutely. I wouldn't dispute that for a second. All the powerlifters, bodybuilders, and calisthenics athletes with pharmacology background do earn their achievements fully. Their dedication is real, their hard work is real, the science behind their training process, all that is real. But the take-home and my main message to you is this: do not get yourself misled into thinking that you can achieve the same results without utilizing the same resources. You can achieve worthwhile results following some of the recommendations these people make, but if you're honest to yourself, you will notice the subconscious expectation to see in the mirror whatever they've achieved. And this expectation will be quietly infusing your trajectory if you're consuming their content without an active filter. And this is exactly my point: to install a deliberate filter with, I appreciate this person's content, I appreciate their expertise, but I constantly remind myself that it does not translate into the same results for me. Because I, for example, completely reject the idea of pharmacological use. So their choice is their premise, but I realize that for me, both the ceiling and the timeline will be different, and the direct comparison or expectation of results is meaningless. And then the next question emerges: should I then be watching these influencers altogether? Well, if I can distill certain productive rationale from the principles they're broadcasting, then it makes sense, there's no problem with that. But always having that filter installed. You can learn from anyone you want, but you should always bear in mind which license they're driving on and which one is it that you've got.